Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Three Stooges official podcast. I am your host, the maestro of mayhem, the conductor of chaos, Phil Anides, and alongside me are the true talents, two-thirds of the modern-day Three Stooges, writer, director, actor Andy Pagana, and the grandson of Curly Howard himself, Brad Server. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Who came in? What? There's no gentleman in here. Hiya, Phil. Hiya, Philly.
Hi, guys. All right. On today's show, we have a very, very special guest, film historian Paul Gierucki. Paul,
hello.
Welcome to the show.
Hiya, pal.
Hiya, Paulie. Hiya, Paul.
Oh, man. I can't wait for this. This is so cool. This is Andy's guest, Andy's get, and I didn't know much about Paul, but as I dug into his background, I got more and more excited about this conversation because this is going to be cool. This is going to be a lot of fun. Paul's had a very, very fascinating career. He has a true passion for not just the Stooges, but the history of comedy. Fatty Arbuckle, Laurel and Hardy, all these guys, Charlie Chaplin.
Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, Abbott and Costello, absolutely. Which I don't have it, but I actually have an original still photo of a promo shot from one of the Abbott Costello films from like 1946. Cool. Yeah, which is very cool. Anyways, but he has a new 3-disc set of Stooge content coming out in July of 2023. We're saying the year because we don't know when people are going to listen to this, but which I'm very excited to jump into. But Paul also discovered at that point, forgotten Charlie Chaplin film appearance, very early Charlie Chaplin film appearance. So we are going to get into that. And this is going to be really cool. So are we ready, guys?
Yeah, Paul also has discovered a lost and unknown Three Stooges commercial.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
True
well,
story.
Then that's
guilty as charged.
We're going to get into that then too. All right. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. So, Paul, as I mentioned, big fan of the history of comedy, but specifically, this is a Stooge podcast. How did you become a fan of the Stooges? We've all kind of shared our origin story. How did you get to be such a big fan of the Stooges?
Not so much differently from all the other kids. I mean, all the other kids would go from school to go out and play baseball or football. I ran home to watch the Three Stooges at 3 o'clock. That was it. I grew up with the Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott, Costello, Little Rascals cartoons, and it became my lifelong passion. That's all I was ever interested in as a kid. So I grew up and somehow find a way to make my living around preserving these films and releasing documentaries, writing books and such.
Awesome. Well, part of that is the Cinemuseum, which sounds really, really cool. So tell us about what the Cinemuseum is. Is there a physical location? What's the purpose and the passion of the
It's an ethereal place. We restore classic films. They'll go on Turner Classic Movies, wind up on DVD, show up at film festivals around the country, everything from the 1900s all the way through to the 1970s. We track down the original film prints, restore them back to the way they used to look. If they're silent, add new soundtracks. If they're sound films, we restore the audio, make them look the way that they did when they were originally released.
Okay. Now, I mentioned that you're film historian, highly respected. You're also director, a producer.
He don't know me very well, do he?
Andy made me say
who's
that.
he talking about?
Yeah. Andy made me say that. But you mentioned restoring. You guys have restored hundreds of silent films, early sound, motion pictures. You mentioned Turner Classic Movies. So a lot of your work has been seen on TCM, which that's where the highly respected part. I mean, come on. What if the TCM doesn't scream class and a lot of respect, what does? But since 2005, we've seen a lot of your films on TCM. So just name a few that we would have seen that you helped restore.
Wow. We've worked on the Fatty Arbuckle films, the Buster Keaton films. We restored 100 Max Sennett comedies for a giant TCM festival that they ran. There are W.C. Fields, Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chase, you name it. We've worked on most of the great classic comedy films in one fashion or another. And I think we have probably 200 titles, 175, 200 titles licensed to TCM alone of restorations that we've done. So if you've seen good early silent comedy, you've probably seen our work.
And Paul, a lot of people might not know that Charlie Chase has a connection to the Stooges.
Yeah, he directed the Stooges, and wonderfully so. I mean, some of his directed shorts are some of my favorites.
And he's credited basically for giving Mo the B.A. Biggie Bye song, right?
That's what I heard.
Love that one. Violin is the word for curly, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Well, Andy, I think you were going to jump into the Charlie Chaplin film find.
Yeah, so I did want to ask about that. I kind of heard the story years ago, but it's kind of fascinating how this came to be. First of all, nobody knew this film even existed, right? And then, Paul, tell us the story about how you found it, and then you figured out that it was Chaplin, and then what happened after that.
It was the craziest thing. It was a Saturday afternoon. I went to a flea market that was at a local trade center. And I went through the whole thing. There wasn't anything that I thought was worthwhile, so I left. And as I was heading toward the door, just out of the corner of my eye, I caught a giant steamer trunk, large, big, huge steamer trunk. And for whatever reason, I stopped, turned, walked over, flipped open the top, and it was filled to the brim with films. I mean, a lot of film. No clue why I stopped, just this weird gut instinct. So I sat on the floor and I went through everything that was in there. I picked out a bunch of pieces that I thought were interesting. I haggled for the price and I brought the stuff home and put it on a shelf. And it sat there for a really long time. I was going to clean them up, repair them, but I just hadn't gotten around to it until I was looking at Brent Walker's website, and he was talking about a lost film called Her Friend the Bandit, which is a lost Charlie Chaplin film. So that was the title, or Thief Catcher was what that film was retitled as. So I remember that as being the film that I picked up from the flea market. So at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I ran in the back room, pulled the film out, set up the projector, watched it on the wall about this big. And then I realized about a quarter of the way through that it wasn't what I thought it was. It wasn't Her Friend the Bandit. It was another film that was retitled the same way. But that exact moment, a cop comes around the corner of the barn, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that really looks like Charlie Chaplin. And it keeps moving and moving, getting closer and closer. I said, wow.
I thought you meant that a cop came around the corner, like in real life.
In my house?
Yeah. I was like, wow, they were really serious about this film. Sorry.
Well, I stopped the projector and I went on the computer and I looked around. I checked all the reference books, and there's no documentation of Chaplin being in this particular film. So I watched the scene, watched it again, watched it again, watched it again. I said, that is absolutely Chaplin. Sent the clip off to some friends, and they verified, said that is absolutely Chaplin. And turns out we just discovered something that had been lost at time.
And so what was the ramifications? Like, how did that fly through the whole silent film community?
It was insane. I mean, I wound up seeing video of myself giving an interview in French, Italian, German, Japanese. I was dubbed. It went all over the world like a shot, made headlines everywhere. We wound up preserving the film, made safety copies. We restored it and released it as part of a DVD collection, and now it's available to everyone in the world. Whenever I find something, my objective is to get it restored, preserve it, and make sure that everyone gets to see it.
I know you've found so many films. Like, how did you do you remember how you found the Three Stooges commercial?
That was another one of those being in the right place at the right time things. I stopped in a camera shop that a friend used to own, and he was buying films. So I was bringing in some Three Stooges films to sell. And he said, I've got something that might be of interest to you. And he goes down in the basement and rifles through a bunch of stuff and comes up with this teeny tiny little film tin that says EUE Screen Gems on it, Three Stooges, The Big Date. And I said, what's this? He's like, well, my buddy was a director for Columbia back in the day, and he sold me a bunch of his stuff. And this is a commercial that he directed with the Three Stooges. I said, really? He's like, yeah, you want it? Just a few bucks. And I bought it, brought it home. And again, turned out to be another one of those things that wasn't in any of the history books, wasn't available anywhere else. Now, I wound up selling it to our friends at C3. Love you, boys. And it's now available all over the place. Everyone can see it now. It's online.
So now talk about the commercial, because a lot of people, our audience might not. It's Mo, Larry, Curly Joe, right? And is it an Aquanet hair commercial? Is that what it was?
Of all things, they're plugging Aquanet hairspray for women and girls, and it is one of the funniest things. They play 3-4 sets of characters. They play the guys who want to get Aquanet hairspray for their girl. They play the guys who work at the factory. They play the delivery man, and throughout the commercial, they just interact with each other. It's pretty funny.
Ah, this is it. What is it? It's about time.
What's funny, it really is. It's like, if you've seen it, I think definitely some of the stuff that the Stooges did with Curly Joe is pretty funny. But this is kind of, even though it's really short, I mean, it's less than a minute or about a minute, right? It's really funny. It's really clever that they're all playing all the characters. It's weird that it's an Aquanet hairspray commercial, but it's super entertaining.
I always say to the people who aren't giant Curly Joe fans, watch their live television appearances. Truly some of the funniest things you will ever see. I mean, when they're doing the operating room sketch and Stuntman, brutally funny. Larry's hysterical, but watch Joe. He's really great in those.
There's some other Stooge family connections to Aquanet that some of, maybe none of you people, but our audience, they don't know about.
What's the connection?
Curly's daughter, my mom used Aquanet. Most of my growing up, seeing the tall can of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it because Uncle Mo sold it to her?
I have no idea. It could have been the commercial. They were so good that she used Aquanet.
Right, when'd you get here?
I didn't get a chance. This whole silent movie theme stuff and film stuff, it's kind of growing on me. Just think about it. If Curly G, if I could be in silent film, this annoyance would never happen anymore. What do you think? Yeah?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Let's get this. Let's get this train back on the tracks. All right. So, Paul, you also wrote and produced and directed the 1995 documentary Stooges, The Men Behind the Mayhem. I remember watching this. So this was on A&E's A&E Network's biography series. Received a very highly respected Silver Telly Award for excellence in broadcasting. And at the time, it became the most watched, highest rated episode of A&E's biography series. So very, very well respected. One of the best known and best produced Stooges documentaries out there. What was the, what was the impetus behind it? How did the film come about? And what was that experience like?
It was really crazy. It was my partner and I, Billy Hunt, we just got together and we decided we wanted to do a documentary. I had always wanted to do a really good in-depth documentary on the Stooges. And I'd been writing for years, doing the research. And I became friends with Lila Fine back in the early 80s, the earliest days of the Three Stooges conventions. And
so for those of you who don't know, that's Larry's youngest sister.
She was one of the most wonderful people you'd ever want to meet. No joke. I mean, the most caring, supportive. I told her that I wanted to do this, and she encouraged me. She said, do it. We'll support you. We'll get behind you, help you get the people that you need to do these interviews. And the better portion of the Fine family came out and sat down for interviews during the 1992 Trevose, Pennsylvania convention back in 92. And everyone sat down, and we wound up interviewing Adam West and Billy West, who did, Ren and Stimpy, Futurama. And we put the whole program together very inexpensively. And it wound up selling it to A&E, and it became one of the most watched programs on that network. They had been trying for years to do the documentary themselves, but they couldn't jump through all the legal hurdles of working with Columbia Pictures. And interesting story, we had originally secured the film rights to use film clips in this documentary. But at the last minute, Columbia pulled out because there was some weird legal hassle going on. And we had to restructure the entire documentary without clips from the copyrighted short subjects, which is really difficult. So we talked about it for a while, and I said, okay, let's make our weakness our strength. let's just go with a bunch of extra interviews, and we'll use as many photographs as we can find, and we'll find new ways to work around and make it mobile and interesting, because usually documentaries tended to be clip driven. And we came up with a formula that worked, and it did so well that A&E had kind of adopted our formula and wound up doing a bunch of documentaries that they could not do themselves previously, because they had a way to do it without having actual film clips. And it turned out to be a really great, interesting, groundbreaking thing back at the time.
So Paul, did you shoot any of the convention when you were out there at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. We've still got a truckload of footage here, stuff shot behind the scenes at Lewiston, Maine, and that Trevos convention. Why do you ask?
Well, I was there.
Oh, seriously?
I was there at that convention. I went out with my dad and my buddy John. So I'm just
no
curious.
Kidding.
So,
I guarantee we crossed paths then.
Yeah, well, I remember meeting Lila. I remember meeting her and Billy West. I remember him being there. I don't remember Adam West, so that might have just been a different time period.
Adam West was in Maine. He was at the Lewiston convention.
Oh, okay. We met him. Brad and I met Adam West at the last Stooge convention in 2017 out in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Really briefly.
Was he not the coolest guy? Seriously, how fun was he?
Yeah, he was great. But so you have a lot of footage that didn't make it up, that didn't end up in that documentary. So there's a lot of gold out there still.
Well, I don't know if I don't think I'm going to break a covenant by saying that you and I have talked, and we'd really love to make available to you guys a bunch of the interview footage that's not been used and things that you can run on your channel, your show.
Oh, yeah. You mean the Curly's grandson channel that everyone can see on YouTube and they can watch us live on Thursday nights? That particular channel and the particular channel that the men behind the mayhem actually
we ran for a while.
Yep. And there's actually opening little. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Which we have a lot of great things. So like Stooge-O-RAMA, right? Yeah. That's coming out. Not only did he fold in the men behind the mayhem with all kinds of interviews that were never seen before.
Right.
Well, someone on our channel. Do you remember who it was that did the opening line? No, I think it was me.
I know the face, but I cannot put you.
Gracious enough. I don't know if he either was gracious or he just felt sorry for me, but he actually was kind enough to put that in the Stooge-O-RAMA to introduce the story and what the fans are about to watch. And there's just so much stuff that's loaded into this new gigantic Blu-ray extravaganza. So what else is in there?
I think he used that intro of you because you used your normal voice.
Oh,
that was my question: is which version of?
So Paul, what you're saying is, if I use my little golden nugget voice here, there could be more he had.
Yeah, so Paul, you did basically upgrade this Men Behind the Mayhems for this as the center point for a Stooge-O-RAMA, or.
Yeah, we originally were just going to reissue the documentary. That was the idea. But when we sent the film in, I pulled together all of the original master tapes. We have to remember we did that back in 92 to 94, and that was all standard def video. We got the transfers back. Everything was digitized, and I was crushed. It just looked awful. I mean, seriously, it looked bad. So I had to sit down and figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work in 2023 as a brand new release?
if only you knew a film preservationist. I mean,
that's it precisely. It's the first time that I ever had to go back and restore my own work.
You're like, who is this loser who did this? You've
been doing it a long time, Paul.
Did you call yourself a moron when you were doing it the second time around?
I found myself asking myself, what would you have done back in 1992? What was your original intent when you were doing this? So what we did was I experimented a lot, tried a bunch of the new AI software, and I finally came up with a process that was able to get the video looking like it was shot yesterday. No joke. It looks like it was filmed yesterday. Unbelievable. But the thing that didn't hold up were all the photographs and the film clips and the other secondary media. So we decided, in for a penny, in for a pound, let's rebuild this entire thing. Now, I mean, the documentary is essentially the same, but it's got so much new footage, so much new photographs and things that you've never seen before. It's really interesting.
So let's delve in.
And the Curly G, we gotta say.
Yeah, and Curly G's in there. Yeah.
And Curly G. By the way, thank you, Brad.
Lower voice, folks.
So you mentioned these lost, some of the extra features and that sort of thing. So a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. So there's a lost theatrical featurette called Surprise, Surprise from 1937, starring Mo, Larry, and Curly. What's a featurette? Exactly.
Well,
what are we talking about?
This advances the story properly. We did the documentary, we added a bunch of extras there, and then we sat down and said, you know what? How fun would it be to add a ton of new material that hasn't been seen before? So I reached out to all of Stoogedom, all of the fans, all of the family members, Kurt Lamond,
friend of the show.
So many people, Greg Hilbrecht, Jim Pauly, so many people dug into their personal collections and gave me their home movies, gave me their commercials, stuff that they recorded off television that doesn't exist anyplace else. And the part that you mentioned it was courtesy of Rich Finnegan. It's a 3-4-minute short subject of Mo, Larry, and Curly in their prime, doing a little short subject for the Pillsbury projector. And this has not been seen on home video at any point. It's not been released. This is something that will be brand new to most Stooge fans, unless you went to one convention. I think they showed it there. Absolutely hilarious and very cool to see new Curly stuff in his prime.
That's amazing, because there's stills of them promoting that. Right? They're in tuxedos or suits.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, Paul. So, when we started the Curly G YouTube channel, we wanted to make it basically a repository for all Stooge stuff, as you know, because you provided us with some stuff. So I started calling around too. And I remember hitting up Randy Scriptfet, about some Mo and Larry stuff he had. And everybody I reached out to was like, oh yeah, no, I just gave that to Paul. I'm like, come on.
Sorry, guys.
It's tighter than a drum when it comes to this stuff.
Here, I've actually got a list. If I have not released this list anywhere, so you guys are getting the scoop on what's actually included in this set. There are over 11 hours of material here. About 8 of it have not been released on home video. Wow. No joke. So there's the documentary with the extended interviews, some original unaired commercial bumps for the documentary that have never been seen anywhere. Lila Fine's family scrapbook is a step-through gallery. There's Stooge memorabilia. Then we've got the Fox Movie Tone News outtakes with Mo and Shemp. Bunch of Stooges home movies, from black and white stuff through color. Some phenomenal HD footage of Curly. There's a short subject called Everyone Likes Music, starring Shemp Howard.
I was going to ask about that one. Yeah, I wanted to ask.
Ultra rare, looks gorgeous, and it's mighty funny. Very cool. There's Surprise, Surprise, the Lost Featurette, an upgraded version of the Camel Comedy Caravan, Andy Wade's California Home Movies. Now, that's the stuff. This film collector, Andy Wade, went to Hollywood and he shot some of the last home movies of Laurel and Hardy together. Then he went over to Columbia and shot Mo, Larry, and Joe Besser at the Columbia Studios. Emil Sitka's in this footage as well. They're clowning around outside the studio. Super cool. There's the complete on-the-go television program. Complete, not just the bits and pieces. We've got the whole show. The complete Strictly for Laughs pilot, Star Spangled Salesman. There's outtakes from Kook's tour, full color footage of things that didn't get used in the finished film. There's a Joe DeRita interview that came from Randy Scriptfet. Wonderful little few minutes of them just chatting about the Stooges. Outtakes from Mark Gilman's documentary, The Funniest Guys in the World. All kinds of stuff that was shot for that. So there's alternate shots of Mousy Garner and all of his replacement Stooges and things that he had put together for his documentary that don't exist now. All of those rushes and things have been burned. This tape copy is the only thing that survives.
Wow.
Mousy Garner's live show from that convention back in the early, well, I think it was 92, 93. Upgraded version of the Simonized commercial, the Don Lemon stuff, Mr. Poplolly commercials. There's, I mean, loads of commercials. Larry's television commercial for A Stroke of Luck. Larry's television commercial for the Three Stooges T-shirt. There's
wow.
Things. Wow, yeah. I mean, people dug deep in their personal collections to find things. But the coolest part, I mean, yeah, there's tons of trailers from all of the films. Lots of things I guarantee you've not seen. But the third disc, at the end of the third disc, it's all audio stuff, and it includes the original college appearances by Moe and Larry, complete recordings of them being interviewed by the audience and all the different things that went on during those. There's the audio from the Lost Head Shop episode it's called Head Shop with Mo Howard sitting talking with Elliot Mintz. Radio programs. Rich Gallo provided his home movies with Emil Sitka. He wound up calling a bunch of those Ed Burns, and he went out to see Emil Sitka and shot these crazy home movies. That's all included. It's 11. Oh, plus we have some fun brand new Stooges stuff like No Senses, No Feeling, which may feature a couple of the fellas that are here. And there's that Curly G meets Shemp's great granddaughter, Chandler Isaac. Wonderful stuff, guys. Thanks so much for your contributions to all of this. And again, this is just a sampling of what's involved there. It's a lot.
Oh, Paulie, it sounds so incredible. I mean, and I just I have butterflies in my stomach just anticipating watching it. But more importantly, the Stooge fans are the best fans in the world, as you know, and they're so endearing, and they love the Stooges so much. And for them to get this new material is just simply a blessing. And I'm so thankful that you and Andy, and I don't know, did you guys touch on how you guys became friends? Did I miss that part? Did I get
no, we
yeah, maybe we could talk about that. But the fact that you guys met and that I met both of you and that we've engaged in, what we've done so far. And this is just so incredible for the fans. And I just want to thank you for all the hard work and your dedication to the craft of what you do and preserving, a part of time that is so desperately needed right now, which is just strictly comedic genius. And I just want to say thank you again. You're the best.
Thank you. Seriously, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys doing all the things that you did to help me put this stuff together. Recording that new introduction for it was just incredibly funny. So cool. And, I love you guys. I love the Stooges. I love the fans. It's been a lot of years since I've seen a lot of new Three Stooges things. You know what I mean? So that's really what the impetus was for it. I mean, I just want there to constantly be new things for people to see and experience. Now, I should say that people going into this, it's not restored short subjects. It's not pristine material. These are all of these crazy odds and ends and all of this really super rare stuff that you would otherwise never see, that people donated generously from their collection. And we did everything we could to clean them up, make it look great. It's not perfect, but it's literally from the only copy that survives in most instances. There's like one tape recording of the commercial, the Stroke of Luck commercial, and Jim Pauly found that. His story behind that is utterly fascinating. You guys should consider getting him on here and let him talk about that.
Oh, we'd love to get him. We totally want him.
Yeah, Jim Pauly is awesome. Great guy.
So many wonderful people in this society. The Stooge fans are just so great. Oh man, 30 years I've been doing this stuff, and they're hands down the most loyal fans.
Well, and here we are, right? Like when you posted this, it was #1 on Amazon, right? In documentaries.
Yeah, and we hadn't even really started promoting it yet, and it went to #1 best-selling documentary thing on Amazon, and they really hadn't even started to push it yet. It was crazy. That's you guys.
So now, what do you think Lila would think of now. You know, she's been gone quite a number of years. You did this with her, or a big part of it with her and her family, right? Very supportive. And you had a deep friendship with her, basically, didn't you?
I did. Her and Nate both. We shared many lunches and many late night phone calls and lots of consulting with these things. And I honestly couldn't tell you how it happened. I think the first time we met, she was sitting at a booth at the convention and she was selling Three Stooges memorabilia. And she had one of those Three Stooges 1960s era lighters, you know, from the cartoon series. And
it's Curly Joe.
Yeah. And I said,
I want that lighter.
How much? I said, how much for the lighter? And she stopped and she cocked her head up and she goes, that's family memorabilia. It's not for sale. How do I put a price on my family memories? I said, you're Larry's sister Lila, aren't you? She said, yes, I am. And that was it. That's it. I got to sit next to her when they did the world re-premiere of Soup to Nuts, the Ted Healy feature with the Stooges. You want to talk about one of the things, I mean, I could have a stroke, but I guarantee I will never forget sitting next to her leaning over constantly, telling me stories about what was going on at the time of that film. You know, she said she had seen it in a theater and how her mother would shout at the screen. And there's all these different little behind the scenes things. And when we were making the documentary, she would tell me the real stories of stuff that went on. She goes, but that's not for public. That's not for public.
All right. When we're done, you got to tell us these stories.
Yeah. So we should ask the question, though. I am curious, and I'll try not to do a huge preamble, but I am, much newer to this Stooges family thing in terms of
welcome.
It's just crazy to me how all of these people are connected. I hear all these names and just kind of being more of an outsider. It's just crazy to me just how passionate the fans are. And so I'm just seeing that firsthand and that for the first time. And it's just crazy to me. And they will eat this up. Like they will eat this up, which is really, really cool and really exciting. So all of that said, obviously you and Andy know each other. I would like to know the history of how you guys got connected and started developing a relationship. So I don't know which one of you wants to take that, but I would like to hear that story.
Do you even remember, Paul? You might not even remember.
Let's see.
To put him on the hook.
It was, well, I'm just like, it was so kind of like weird. So I was looking.
You've always just been there. I mean,
yeah, I know. It does feel that way.
Yeah, we all.
I mean, hey, he was there at the convention. You guys didn't even know each other.
I was literally at the
just
convention
there
when you were running around interviewing people. I had read somewhere that there was an unproduced script, an unproduced Abbott and Costello script called By Candlelight, and it was in an auction and I lost the auction and I was just kind of obsessed with trying to get a copy of this. And I'm not quite sure where I found you. It might've been, did you ever advertise in the Three Stooges Journal?
I don't think so.
I don't know where I came across your info, but I reached out to you about trying to track down this, see if you had a copy, because you had one thing we didn't talk about is your collection, not just your film collection, but your actual collection of incredible memorabilia and rare, one of a kind. Whatever, like, memorabilia and paperwork and papers and posters and lobby cards. I mean, you have such a collection of original and sometimes super rare, one of a kind stuff. And we just started kind of bonding over that and bonding over Abbott and Costello and then bonding over the Stooges. And we developed a friendship. I think it was immediate, right? You're like,
instant.
I don't have that, but I got this. And then we just started kind of sharing stories and talking.
And I remember we finally met up in LA. We connected in Burbank. We sat down and had our first get together that way. And it's like just instantaneous. You get people that you click with, and he's one of those guys. But yeah, I originally started collecting because I was going to open a museum dedicated specifically to comedy. So when I was I think I started collecting when I was 13.
We
12,
still
13
need that.
years old.
I still want that.
I wanted to do that, but then the internet came along and kind of made it unnecessary to have a physical space to do that. So I wound up donating a lot of things to different museums and different collections. I don't have the archive that I used to have, but I used to have an original lobby card for the very first Laurel and Hardy short.
Wow, Lucky Dog?
Lucky Dog, yeah, it was one of two that were known to exist. And
you also had an extra large poster of Men in Black from the Stooges, right?
Not Men in Black, Microphonies. I had them from Booby Dupes. I had it from. There were a lot.
Oh wait, I thought you had a story that you had a Men in Black poster that Joan Howard wanted it. Am I making it up?
No. Joan had it, and we were going to trade.
Oh, she had it.
Right, she had it, and we were going to trade, but I honestly can't remember exactly why it didn't happen, but it never happened.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, right. But it was a possibility you were going to get that. I got the one of my favorite things in my entire collection. It's not a Stooge thing, but it's from Bud Abbott's restaurant, Bud Abbott's Windsor House, and it's a cartoon of Bud Abbott on a glass. Right, a small drinking glass, and it says "stolen from Bud Abbott's Windsor House."
Super rare. Well, you also wound up with that pewter mug that had Abbott and Costello's names engraved in it, and
yeah, I had. Yeah, it's a Bud Abbott from the Players Club, and this was a gift that Abbott and Costello used to give. It was a book, right? And when you open a book, there is a bottle of Old Forester whiskey in it or whatever it is. And it says, from your friends, Abbott and Costello, right?
Yeah.
And I got that from you. Yeah, That's awesome. I mean, most of the stuff I got from you happens to be Abbott and Costello stuff.
Where is it?
That's in New York.
Hey, so this is my so it's like an original publicity still from
Go to Mars?
No, Who Done It?
Oh, really?
Yeah, Who Done It?
Great short. Feature. I mean, great feature.
My mother-in-law Priscilla, she's she kind of like sells antiques and different stuff like that online, and she was antiquing and she found this and asked me if I wanted it, and I said absolutely. So
very cool. Yeah. Hey, Brad. Just out of curiosity. Now, I understand your connection to the Stooges. Of course, they have to be your favorite, naturally.
Right.
But what are your other favorite comedians? Who do you like?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, of that era, I mean, to be honest with you, just like you did, I kind of told my story of how I rushed home from school too, didn't do my homework, and went to Channel 52 UHF Los Angeles to watch the Stooges. Now, there again, at that age, it was watching the Little Rascals and some of that comedy, but certainly Laurel and Hardy, and I'd hate to say like the Munsters and some of this other stuff because it's not of the same. Right. It's not of the same.
But it is. I mean, it's that generation of the thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the baby boomer age of television really is what drove my interest in not only TV, but also the musicals of those days, the Roger and Hammerstein musicals. My brother was in music. But then
sing us something.
Oh.
Sing a syllable.
Make it simple. All right, shut up. No.
I generally find that people like all of us, we all have shared interests. You love the Stooges, so you're bound to kind of like a lot of the other comedians, and you like older music and all of those things. It all just kind of goes together, and it doesn't hurt to kind of promote and love the other guys as well. But Stooges are number one.
Well, I haven't met your wife yet, but I share an interest in her too. So Gierucki, if you're out there,
how to say your tonsil out and shove it right in
your eye. Awesome.
Paul, there's one thing when you actually meet Brad in person, and actually same thing for you, Phil. When you actually, what the greatest thing about being friends with Brad is you just get to hit him, right? No. It's like it's the closest thing you get to being.
You broke my snare drum. I mean my eardrum.
I was going to say earlier, speaking of collectibles, Brad has the largest collection in the world of slaps in the face from Andy. I mean, it's second to none. So, they're only rare to him. So
you should put that in Guinness. There's it should be in the Book of World Records.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, there we go. We'll do
the Marx Brothers and all those guys.
Yeah.
But I was kind of forced not to be in the whole that as a child, the whole comedy scene, because I didn't talk about the Stooges or even those guys. It was like, Eddie Murphy and stuff in the 80s is where I started getting into like stand-up comedy and the shows that they were doing and fell in love kind of with the shock factor of they say something that just people are just like floored. And that became what I did. Right. And I just did it in public and I'm kind of still doing it today.
Oh yeah.
That had to be an absolute shock for you to discover what your familial connection was and to learn the history behind everything.
Yeah. And you really don't, I didn't appreciate it until I started going to the Stooge conventions and meeting fellow historians like Rich and the guys that worked on your project they took me in as family, like Gary Lassen and stuff. When I went to the meetings, they were so meticulous and so brilliant and knew everything. I knew nothing, but they got me caught up year after year. I'd listen, I'd talk to the fans, and so it really, once I got engaged with the fans, not literally because I'm married, that'd be kind of odd, but I really just started accepting. Look, and Andy even brought this up. Weren't you doing other things like, earlier? Yes, I was always crazy and always acting the Stooge, but never saying it's because I'm Curly's grandson.
Because you were like that the day I met you. You were in it.
Yeah, I started thinking back after we've talked about that on another episode, right? That we did, and I started getting to the point where there was forces out there, whoever they may be or what they were just like my mom was saying, you can't do this, because I didn't want to get her in trouble. I finally got to the point where I'm like, look, I'm Curly Howard's grandson. I don't have to hide anything. I can be me. I can talk about him. If I act like him, look like him, whatever I do, I didn't give that away to anybody. So that's when I started getting to the point where it's like, no, the world needs to know that I exist.
Well, it's genetics. That's your lineage, your genetics. And if I hadn't said so before, thank you for what you guys are doing with these podcasts and with the shows and everything else. You're carrying on that legacy, presenting this humor to an entirely new generation that might otherwise miss it in this crazy super media filled world. It's easy to pass on history, but you're taking something vintage with your legitimate connection to these things and bringing it into today, which is just amazing. It's a really wonderful thing. And thank
you, Paul, for saying that. And what's really interesting is that it kind of happened on accident, right? We started doing stuff just for fun and putting it up. And then, for lack of being able to create content, we started to do just 10-minute lives where we talk to people and goof around. And it's grown so quickly. And one of our biggest, there's this girl, Jessica. She's one of our biggest fans. And she's on every YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. And she's 16 years old, right? She just had her 16th birthday. There's a lot of people that they're not, 50-year-old guys, which is kind of what you would picture. And maybe 30 years ago, that would have been the target audience. But it's changed a lot. And, going back to the old comedians things, like the Sons of the Desert, which is, for those of you who don't know, the Laurel and Hardy Appreciation Society, just reached out to Brad, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, we're going to run, I think, maybe Hollywood Party or something. They're like, we want you as a guest. Yeah, right. And you're going to go to the Laurel and Hardy.
How cool is that? That's legitimate crossover. Very cool.
Yeah.
There's a Marx Brothers
sorry,
podcast.
Phil,
No.
I hijack things.
No. This is great.
Interviews on the people.
No. We want to have good conversation. That's
fighting.
That's where we're
and the thing
spread out.
The thing is so just like the fans that tune into the live and that are going to be tuning into this podcast of all age groups, just like when we did the live show, we're also going to help them to know that Stooge-O-Rama is out there, and they need to see this. And some of them maybe you know, it's the diehards that are just going to see these little golden nuggets that you've preserved and stuff that they've never seen before. And some of the newer kids will, you know, they'll gravitate towards the shorts and, you know, of course, the curly G introduction, that kind of stuff, obviously. But I really think that later on, as they grow up, they're going to be showing their kids and their grandkids, and this whole legacy is going to continue. And I've got my beautiful daughter, Elizabeth, who's the great granddaughter of Curly Howard. You know, she's in college, going to be graduating college and stuff, but I think I'm certainly going to be handing over the pie baton to her someday. Because she's
that's how this stuff
hilarious.
Survives.
Yeah, even in her serious sense, she's hilarious.
She's very funny.
Yeah, I had to do a 23andMe because 21andMe or whatever just didn't cut it because I wasn't quite sure. But she's definitely my daughter, and I'm just so proud to keep this legacy alive and to be.
Well, she is. If you look at that, there's one of the only known photographs I think of Curly and your mom, Curly and his daughter.
Right when my mom was 14.
Yeah, yes. She looks just like your daughter. Yeah. Right. I mean, like I thought, spitting image.
Look. With all these filters these days, I wasn't sure, but now I'm sure, folks. It's a go.
So, and what's amazing, I think, about this, and Paul, I want to ask you a question right after this, but you know, you get to now, Brad, you get to see like a newly discovered, or at least shown film of your grandfather.
Yeah,
like, I mean, a lot of stuff.
Awesome.
Like, you know, you kind of Larry doing his thing in the, you know, what was that in the 70s or early 70s, right? Mm-hmm. When he's doing a commercial for his book, and you know, the commercials probably with Curly Joe was the 60s. There's not going to be too much where you're going to find new Curly stuff that's never been seen before.
Fact.
You know, so fact. Paulie, is there like the holy grail of missing? I want to find this in Stooge land.
That's a great question.
Oh, of course. I mean, there's a bunch of things that I would love for them to find the Marx Brothers Humoresque, the original film that they shot. Trying to think Stooges wise, my jaw hit the floor when they discovered Hello Pop, the Technicolor film. I never imagined that could possibly survive. They only made so many copies of each film. It was on Technicolor stock, and yet somehow it turned up in Australia? Just remarkable. I think the bulk of the Stooges material survives. I would love to see somebody do a proper restoration of Kook's tour. I know that's much later in their career, but I think it's an important piece of work to do a proper, legit restoration. I had a hand in C3 putting out the version that's available now. My friend Andy Coryell had a small, I think it was a Super 8 print or a 16 millimeter print. I can't remember which. And we transferred that wound up on DVD. But to go back to the original materials, which do survive.
Where are they?
I can't talk about it, but it exists. I can help anyone who's interested in tackling such a project. I would even spearhead such a project if everyone were to get behind it and really wanted to see it. But
I feel that way about the cartoons. I
agree completely. They're so funny. And it's Stooges. It's their voices. It's their comedy. It was this, you know, the writers.
They are funny. They're funnier than I remembered as a kid. We go back. We've put some up on our channel, and I want to where we sit and watch with the audience because there's some great stuff. Even with the live action wraparounds and
Stooges,
they're great. I would love. I mean, obviously, I don't even know if one ever happened, but. Man, it would have been great to hear just Curly do an interview at a character.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention was that there's stuff with Mo, obviously, like the Mike was it Mike Wallace?
Mike Douglas.
Mike Douglas. Yeah, like the Mike Douglas interviews. Like, there's just nothing with Curly, really. So to me, that would be the holy grail. Would be like an actual sit down interview with Jerome. Out of or Jerry out of character, like that would be
and there's a distinct possibility that something could exist. I mean, they've turned up things that were sold out of Mo's collection, like that audio recording of Mo, Larry, and Shemp doing a radio interview.
Right. The Baltimore radio station.
Exactly. Yeah. Those things do turn up, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. I used to say, nah, never find it, never happened. Right. But I've seen so many lost things be found that there's a chance for almost anything to survive.
I'm thinking it's going to be in Stooge-O-Rama too, possibly.
Right? Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'll make you this promise. If there's enough interest in this set, if it does as well as the distributors think it'll do, I would commit to doing a second volume because there is more out there. There is a lot more material.
And if not, Paula, you're more than welcome to distribute that stuff right on our channel, right directly to the.
Yeah, there you go.
You got it.
I'm committed to doing a commercial for Stooge-O-Rama on network TV. In fact, MeTV would be lucky to have us, Paulie. So if you want to have your people talk to my people, reach out to them. I think we need to get on network TV with this stuff.
Absolutely.
Not going to argue with you, my friend. I'm in.
Thank you. Like, so Paulie, like, not to put you on a spot, but if you had a chance to ask each one of the Stooges, like you're doing a documentary on them, ask each one of them just one question. Do you have an idea what you'd ask each one of them?
Wow.
I know.
That is a tough one.
I know. It's like
one.
Off the cuff, but.
You know, it's fascinating. I would ask Mo, are you comfortable with taking over the Healy role in all of the comedies? Are you comfortable being the guy who dishes out all of the punishment to the other guys versus being just a regular stooge? You know, how did you make that transition? That's one.
That's good. He seemed pretty comfortable.
I was to say, I feel like he was okay with it.
Well, I mean, he was a Shakespearean actor. He could do anything. I mean, if you could do Shakespeare, you could literally do anything. But, you know, there had to be some personal feelings about him knocking his brother around. There had to be different. I mean, he's not hurting them. None of it's intentional, but I'd be interested in the psychology behind it. And Mo seems like the kind of guy who would have had a really interesting answer for that.
Yeah. I always felt that, you know, when he was doing those last couple shorts with Joe Palma instead of Shemp, and him and Larry are calling out the window, "Hey, Shemp, you know, grab the bill, come inside." Like, how does that affect you?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And the fact that they kind of wanted to carry on as the two Stooges instead of three, and then the studio not wanting them to do that would have been fascinating to see where they would have gone with just the two of them.
Yeah, they would have been funny. You realize in those shorts, they did a lot of scenes alone. I'm like, they could have done it.
It could have worked. I think it would have been fine, but, you know, we'll never know. Or Emil Sitka is the third Stooge. It was so close, so very close to becoming a reality. And he fit in perfectly with the guys. I would have loved to have seen what he brought to the Larry character, but I think as far as Curly, I would ask him if he understood his place in the history of comedy. What he brought to films was something that an energy that no one else had. And if he really understood how important he was to slapstick, I'm not sure what I would ask Larry. he seems like he could have done straight roles as well. You look at things like Woman Haters, it's almost a straight part, almost.
Oh yeah, right.
And I think he would have done extraordinarily
Larry,
well.
How much fun he was having?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, Larry, is it a lot of fun? Like, is it a job? I would love to know his answer to that.
What about Shempy? What would you ask Shempy?
Oh man, Shemp is actually way high in my heart. I love Shemp.
Yeah.
And I guess him leaving the group, what were his feelings about actually severing with his brother to go off and pursue his own career? If it was a difficult choice for him, or if it was something that he just felt he needed to do. Just not that these are really deep, detailed questions, but I'd like to know what they were thinking and what caused these things to happen.
And then how about like even coming back, where he came back, it was supposedly temporary, and he gave up. You know, he was growing. He was first of all, an incredible character actor, not even in comedies, but doing serious work.
Well, yeah, and under the worst possible conditions, you know, for the worst possible reasons. I mean, what a horrible thing to have to come back and fill in for your brother. But wow, what an admirable job. He stepped in like he just never missed a beat. You watch that film, the title escapes me at the moment, not Flinging the Ring, the original.
Everybody Likes Music.
No. The short where he comes back after Curly has a stroke. The boxer,
where he's the boxer?
Yes.
Oh.
Title escapes me at the moment, guys.
Yeah, me too.
Us too.
I can't remember. That short, you actually, you know what? If you have a chance, go to archive.org. I produce a magazine called Comique Magazine. There's volumes 1 and volumes 2. It's free. Just go to archive.org. You can read it online, or you can download it. And in it, there is a section about the Stooges, about Curly's last film. And in it, we discuss the transition of Curly having his stroke and Shemp coming back, and we provide scripts that show what the original scene was going to be, how it was recreated for Curly, but redone for Shemp. But really fascinating, and that's totally free. It's on archive.org.
Okay. Well, Wally, also, is that the same article where you kind of put the rest what Curly's cameo in, was it Malice in the Palace was going to be?
Malice in the Palace, yes.
Where he plays the chef, or he was going to be the chef.
That is correct. It was shot, ultimately, it was shot, but it was cut from the final print. Jules White said because they had put a large fake mustache on Curly and no one recognized him, the bit didn't get a laugh, so he had to cut it. He was really disappointed that he had to do that, but it's fact, verified, put to rest. Curly did appear in Malice in the Palace.
But it is amazing. I mean, look at that picture. Nobody knew. Like, you don't know that that's Curly. He looks, not just because of the mustache, but he's super thin.
Well, he lost so much weight.
Right.
The fact that changed his whole structure. Like, could this be Curly? Right?
Yeah. We go into great detail. Well, I go into great detail in that article, provide photographs and comparisons and interviews with people who were actually there and actually knew. So that puts the nail in the coffin. He was in that film.
Yeah.
And by the way, it was Fright Night, 1947's Fright Night.
I said that.
Yeah.
You said that.
Thank you. Good man.
You look like an idiot.
So Joe Besser.
So many films, it's hard to remember all the titles.
Paulie, what did we think of Joe Besser?
I love Joe Besser. Joe Besser is fabulous with Abbott and Costello. He brings something completely different to the act. I know a lot of people hate on him because he's not Curly. He's not Shemp. He's Joe. Enjoy it for what it is. It's another incarnation of the Stooges that you might not have otherwise seen.
And he's also great in Africa Screams with Shemp.
Very, very funny. And Joe's, I think he got short shrift in a lot of things. He loved the boys. He loved working with them. If you go back and you listen to his radio interviews, he gets into a lot of detail about how kind they were to him and how much he appreciated them. And I don't think he deserves a lot of the hate that he gets. And he filled a very important role in the Stooges' career.
Well, it's also unfair that some of those shorts that he did, they were like shot in a day or two. Where, Curly,
I don't think it did not give him the best launching pad for what he was doing, but he certainly made the best of it. And the studio was just slashing budgets at that point and remaking.
It was the dying days. It was the dying days of the shorts at that point.
Precisely. They were amongst the last people that were still making theatrical shorts like that. So
yeah, and I really want and I didn't. This didn't really come into play with me until I was an adult and could appreciate what the other two Curlys did for the Stooges act, how they carried them into the 70s. But Joe DeRita and Joe Besser are incredibly gifted actors, and they deserve a ton of credit for how they kept Larry and Moe doing their thing. And the only way that could even have happened is the fact that they are great at their craft. And so I want all the Stooge fans. I totally get it, and I totally love all the Curly Howard praise, and I was one of those kids too. And then I grew up, and you just have to kind of look at it and kind of take a closer look and see how the act carried on for as long as it did, and that those actors made Larry and Moe even greater than they were when Grandpa was doing it with them. So I just want everyone to really, everyone's got their opinion, and I'm open to all that. When I read the comments, I let people speak their mind, but maybe take a closer look and actually watch them before you pass judgment, because no one's going to be Curly Howard, right? But they are Curlys, and they were great.
Think of it this way: those two men allowed how much more Stooges material to exist and survive. Those feature films that they did were so wildly popular. People loved them. They lined up around the block to get into the theaters to see the features with Curly Joe. If you give them a chance, if you don't compare them to the early shorts with Curly, just take a step back. It's the Three Stooges, just another incarnation of it. And Moe and Larry are given an opportunity to keep doing the things that they did so well. And they are fun and funny, sometimes just in a slightly different way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
What's not
we
to
know
love?
that better. We know that better than anybody because we do our Stooge act.
Right.
We have you as a great Curly. We got Chris as our Moe, and I fill in as Larry. And people have, they accept us, and some people even think we are the Three Stooges.
Right, yeah.
So because they have an open mind because they haven't seen anything else, right?
Right.
So with that open mind comes a new understanding and a new maybe appreciation for what we're doing, what they did, and what the Three Stooges means. And it just means a lot of fun. It means keeping the laughter alive. And it means treating everybody with dignity and respect and being just great ambassadors.
Look at you waxing all poetic.
What did I eat?
Well, speaking of keeping the laughs alive, we want to wrap this up. Stooge-O-Rama is coming out. It's going to be available July 10th. 2023. As we record this, we're a couple months before that, but we don't know when you're going to listen to this. So we're going to say the year, July 10th, 2023 that's when it's actually available for purchase. You can pre-order right now on Amazon. There are going to be both Blu-ray and DVD versions of this set. So you can go to Amazon right now, just look up Stooge-O-Rama and it'll come right up and you can pre-order right now. And Paul has graciously agreed to give away 5 either Blu-ray or DVD copies of Stooge-O-Rama to listeners or viewers of this show. So what we're going to do, I'm going to try to be as clear as I can with this. What we're going to do is when this gets up on YouTube, the 5 comments that get the most likes by July 10th, 2023 will receive either a DVD or a Blu-ray copy of Stooge-O-Rama. So again, that means you comment on there. You can say whatever you want. Obviously, something positive. Keep it clean, something positive, and then tell your friends to go like your comment. And the most likes that will get the top 5 most likes will get either a DVD version or a Blu-ray version, courtesy of Paul. So make sure you do that, listeners and viewers, when you get that. So thank you for doing that.
And thanks
Paul.
to Kit Parker. Kit Parker Films, he's my partner. He will be providing these for the winners.
He just doesn't even know it yet. Thank you, Kit. We appreciate it.
Again, the duty, humanity, again. Success.
All right. Also, listeners and viewers, don't forget to get your Stooges merch at shopknuckleheads.com. You can save 10% by using the savings code LOYAL10. And of course, if you can't get enough of Andy and Brad, if you need more Andy and Brad in your life, and who doesn't need more Andy and Brad in their lives? They do the Stooge Talk Live every Thursday, technology permitting. Every Thursday they do that. It's a great time. You get to see Andy do some different cool stuff with some of his art. Brad shows up and just kind of sits there. It's really a lot of fun. And
well, you walked it. You nailed it. You better tone it down a little bit there, Phil.
We have Chandler on, so definitely tune in.
All right. Awesome. And then make sure, again, you follow us on YouTube and Instagram at Curly's Grandson. You can join the group on Facebook, Curly's Grandson's Corner. You talk about, by the way, Paul, there are photos that I have never seen before. You mentioned Moe being a Shakespearean actor. There were some photos I saw recently posted. I don't know if it was Curly's group, but one of the Facebook I've never seen before with him like all done up with like a kind of a cool mustache and stuff. There's all kinds of cool stuff in Curly G's Grandson's Corner that you want to check out as well. But Paul, if people want to get in touch with you for whatever reason, if they want to, chat with you or hit you up for anything, is there a way that people can reach you as well?
Sure. Easy to get to me. CinemaMuseumLLC.com. That's everything that you send there will get to me, and it'll show you all the different projects that we're working on, and you can actually buy stuff there as well.
Awesome.
And Paul, we're gonna get you distributing some stuff up on YouTube. Start your own Cine Museum. Get your own little Turner Classic Movies up on YouTube. I think.
You betcha, my friend. Looking forward to it.
That would be awesome. All right. Well, Paul, thank you for your time. Andy.
My pleasure.
Really. Brad, thank you for your time as well. I will call you gentlemen, Southern gentlemen.
Who came in?
Who came in? But until next time, viewers, listeners, Stooge fans, keep the laughs alive. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.